Howdy everyone. So this is going to be episode 1 of the B8 build series. Not used to doing build series, so we're going to give it a shot here. This is a B8 A4 Avant that we're going to be doing a 4-seat demo drift car. We decided to go with a VR6 out of my V5 platform that I was swapping in, 12 valve, hope to make 800 or so horsepower. So this is a 12 valve AAA engine code VR6 2.8 liter. VR6 is really unique. It uses one cylinder head, but there's still a V pattern. Super capable of engine. Talking with Stav at Malacca Motorsports is the reason why I end up going with 12 valve. Its simplicity, its strength, and a compact design. So I'm really excited to be putting these motors to use. I have 4 of them total. This is a ARP head stud, CTS head gasket spacer, basically stock motor. This will be the dyno startup motor and hopefully a good backup motor for me. Dyno, get the car functional, and then I have everything IE rods, forged pistons, IE full valve train. That will be the big 800 horsepower or so monster that I plan on building. So GT45 turbo for right now. I do plan on running quite a bit of nitrous through it, so obviously not in this motor being stock rods and that, but I did want a pretty large turbo, 1 for aesthetics and 2 for a room of power. We'll see, maybe GT35 would be better suited for what we're trying to do. But so unfortunately I didn't film mounting the engine last night. It was a lot of trial and error, and I know that's the thing with like vlogging and doing build series is doing the trial and error, but I really wanted to try to get an idea of how I was going to mount the motor before I went into how we mounted it. So let's talk about the mounts. I saw him at IBID Engineering, was really excited to come on board with my program. We use their products at AZ Euros almost on a daily basis. So the dude is super smart, super perfectionist when it comes to mounting and his parts. So these are B5 engine mount arms from IBID Engineering. We're using an 034 engine mount. This is temporary setup for the most part right now, but basically what I did was drill a hole into the aluminum subframe, plated it on the back side. We'll probably do some reinforcement on this top side, and I'll build a custom aluminum mount so that it spreads the load out in that. But this is being rear wheel drive, yes, it's going to have a lot of horsepower in that, but it's rear wheel drive. It's a fairly compact engine. It doesn't have a lot of side rotation as far as you know, the V and spreading out the load. It's pretty centrally mounted and centrally located, so I think this platform and that will do good. I think I might brace off of the engine mount itself through the bolt hole, go down to the factory just to kind of triangulate strength. I can always go off of the top of the mount here to maybe like an upper structure point to the frame rail, but we're going to try this out. It should work fine. Oil pan's a Mark III for right now. I do have IBID build me a pan, a nice baffled aluminum pan with some extra capacity, but for right now and getting it started up and on the dyno and whatnot, we're just going to go for this pan for right now. Spa intake manifold, just straight direct manifold. I had Adam Beatty at Fusion Fabrication do some modifications to it, so we basically chopped this off, plugged it, and then everybody loves the pie cuts. This is a 034 OBD2 to OBD1 adapter that he basically just started off of that and started welding the pie cuts. This is a Holley 92mm throttle body LS. We are going to be running Holley Terminator X ECU on this, so full standalone. We'll run LS coils and give us all the boost control, nitrous control, everything in one, in a super simple platform. The car is going to get entirely rewired, so with the standalone it's going to be really easy to control fans and fuel pumps and all that off of very basic wiring. Power steering delete, we will be running electric power steering on this car. I'm not 1000% sure if it's going to be an MR2 hydraulic pump, keep the hydraulic rack, or my traditional way of doing it is a Prius style steering column in the car, which I am hoping to do. We'll see how it works on this platform. So here's this side with the IBID Industries adapter plate that bolts on and relocates the oil filter housing. I have just a basic sandwich plate in there because I did need an oil pressure pickup. I'm probably going to change that up and go to a remote oil filter and then move the pickup point, get away from a sandwich plate and just go to an adapter. but we'll tackle that in the future, hopefully in future build videos. O&E's mounted up via 034 adapter. Metal Clutch Masters slave. We got AUDIs for parts, steel trans mounts. If you see, I just got a 2x4, just kind of giving my spacing and trying to get my pinion angle correct for the trans, get it nice and level. Here's over on this side. So my plan is I plan to use B5 probably, hopefully. B5 engine mounts there, or I do have the track density 034 mounts, and the nice thing is I have an 034 aluminum strut brace there that is really, really strong, and that will allow me to actually mount the transmission mounting points right there and right there on that side. The only thing, I know everything's going to be like braced and mounted off the subframe, which is a strong point in that on the car, but I think what I will do is probably build some kind of bracing structure that goes from the front subframe, kind of like to support the back end, because there is a lot of weight and load on the back end of the subframe, and triangulate it kind of like to the factory transmission mounts, which are back there underneath the tunnel. So that should work out well. Quick mock-up of the shifter. I'm about 1 inch off, so I think I have to extend the O1E shift linkage just about 1 inch longer, and then use my cooler work shifter. We'll start diving into it. Today we're going to be pulling most of the interior out, hopefully, get the engine bay, the rest of it stripped down, hopefully pull the rest of the fuel lines out of it. We're going to be running a fuel cell in the back. How we mounted up the motor and the best placement for the motor is I think we are going to go to a rear mount radiator in this car. I was hoping not to, just for simplicity and getting the car running sooner than later. But I think we are going to end up putting the radiator in the back, fuel cell, and then once we get the interior stripped and everything plumbed and the car up and running, we can send it off and get it caged, get the 4 seats in it, and start hitting the freaking track time. So yeah, let's dive into it today. Kind of see the 034 track spec. So they're shorter on the uppers. That allows for more camber inherently built into it. And then ECS coilovers. ECS tuning's coming on board. They actually already sent me out the front delete plugs for the front axles. They're building a B8 drift kit. So I'm really excited to be working with them and growing the B8 and Audi period drift cars. ZTF wheels, just wrapped in some cheap tires so I can roll them around right now. I've been really happy with Ironmans, running them so far. They're a good tire. They give me good consistent feedback. They're inexpensive and readily available. So the car in its current state, sitting here in the garage. Finally getting this place semi cleaned up and ready to work efficiently. Let's go into the interior now. All right, going to be going in the interior. This is pretty much exactly how I got it from auction. Obviously not full of parts in the passenger seat, so we'll get those out of there. There's a stock A4 engine mounts, ECU, ABS module out of the white sedan. All right, that was a heavy box, so got that out of the way. The interior, pretty much stock. I did rob, funny enough, I robbed the steering wheel out of this car. This was an 8-speed sport package car, so it had paddle shifters and a 3-spoke steering wheel as well as the sport seats. So I took the 3-spoke steering wheel and put it in my diesel hot rod there, and now I have paddle shifters and a 3-spoke steering wheel in my Q7 TDI tow rig / daily. So the B5, I think it's 2000 and up, actually Audis period, have the same splines on the steering wheels for the steering column. So that steering wheel and adapter I got out of a 2000 or 2001 B5 S4 race car. So since I didn't have a steering wheel on this to get it off the trailer, we just threw that guy on there. I'd like to possibly use that. It just depends on what steering column that we go through. This thing was a little whooped. It wasn't the greatest taken care of as far as cosmetics. I found a lot of DoorDash and that style receipts and things like that in the car. It kind of stinks like food, so probably something got left in there. It was a repossessed car. It did have a broke timing chain in it and completely locked up motor. So luckily enough, from auction I got it fairly cheap, especially before the insane market advance on it. Hit me up if you guys need any parts. I'll try to hang on to as much stuff as I can for probably a week or two. Hopefully I get this video up quickly. Yeah, I guess let's start diving in now. I can go back here. Wagon's already being put to use, the Avant. So got the wide body kit in here, so we'll get that mounted up at some point. All of this stuff needs to come out. Need to mount the fuel cell in there, and then I do need to figure out how I'm going to do the radiator here in the back. Nice thing is that with removing the factory fuel cell, which I've already done that, it's going to allow me to potentially cut the rear floor and drop the seats down in the back to allow the rear passengers to have a lot more comfort, leg room, positioning cage exactly where I want it. It just gives me a huge amount of options, as well as I have plenty of fuel for feeding this high horsepower VR6. So with that, we're going to move the passenger stuff back. I don't have a ton of room back here to run. I'd like to run a decently sized fuel cell, at least 10 gallons. And I'd really not like to cut out too much of the body like I did on the B5. But looking at it, I've taken a lot of inspiration from rallycross videos. And I like the way that they do theirs as far as the rear mesh painted black. The car's black, it will stay black. It might be a good alternative just to trim up and cut up some of this rear hatch. That might be my best bet. Funny enough, I'm looking at this now because I haven't had any real good photos of like the back of this car. Who cares about the back? You know, it's the side profile on that. But I've watched rallycross videos, or sorry, I should say videos. Edit, rewind. I've seen rallycross photos, and they run Audis in rallycross. So, in a very similar design as far as an A3 back, A3, S3, whatever version, small hatchback that they're using. But they could basically follow the body line here. So they cut this out. And I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there is a body line right here that kind of follows like a curvature. They come in here, cut this, follow this body line across, up, over, and then they build the ducking. So basically everything right here would be removed, and then have a black mesh screen. So all the ducking basically comes there. I think that is going to be my best bet. I would like to street drive the car, so maybe I can just like hang a license plate from the back there, just when I'm street driving the car. And I should say, I want to street drive the car to drive it to car shows and show that, you know, I built a hot rod race car in a German Audi vehicle that can still be driven and enjoyed. So yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna go over a pro tip because unfortunately I've either one parted out a lot of cars or two built a lot of race cars. So wanted to go over some tips and tricks when taking apart a car, fully stripping it down as far as interior and all that stuff. One, don't make the mistake of pulling the seats out first, because it is, maybe it's just me being old, but it's really hard on my knees, my back, to be laying in this car, no carpet, you know, bolts, nuts, tools getting stuck on your knees and poking you, and it's kind of frustrating. So leave the seats in it, leave the ability to power up the seats so you can move them, take out the bolts and adjust it. So I usually move the seat all the way back, just to start with there. Some of the tools and stuff, real basic: Phillips screwdriver, flathead, body pry tools, trim tools, so you don't break trim and damage them, either one for resale or two for reusing them. I do want to use as much of this dash as far as possible. Obviously won't be running HVAC, won't be running radio, won't be running heat, anything like that. But as far as that, you know, we want to leave the appearance of the dash as much as possible. Box to throw nuts and bolts in if you're saving them. Always good to save hardware. We've got hot rod. Saving hardware in that, or just not getting in your way. Little impact gun, basic stuff, 10 mil, 8 mil, 13 mil, magnet tray to keep your tools in. Don't use it for hardware, throw that in the box. Use it for your tools so your tools don't go flying around. So we're gonna start pulling this thing apart. Alright guys, as I said, I'm not the best at this vlogging. Totally forgot to do a closeout video, so we're going to wrap it up here. Just basically going over the interior, we got all stripped out. Huge thanks to Trey for showing up and helping me. We buzzed through it so fast. Get the seat mounted up, kind of mocked up the pedals and that, so we'll see you next time for build series number 2. Thank you guys.